नमस्ते प्रियमित्राणि गतवारे वयं प्रथमपुरुषस्य रूपाणि द्रष्टुम् आरब्धवन्तः द्विवचने. So, namaste dear friends, in our previous class we started looking at the forms of the third person in the dual forms. In this class, which is lecture number 20, we are going to look at the third person pronouns and nouns for the three genders in the dual, and this is part 2 of that series. So we'll do this introduction and practice of the second and eighth cases for the pullinga or the napunsakalinga words ending with a, and of the feminine words of akara and ikara endings in the dvivachana or the dual forms. We'll do a revision of the verb conjugation grid and a practice of the vartamana kala, and I will also introduce the bhavishya kala, which is in many ways related to the forms of the vartamana or the present tense. So the bhavishya kala being the future tense. And I will also take this opportunity to introduce you to the imperative or the ajna forms. We've been looking at it, but I will introduce the forms in the entire grid for the verb conjugation. Finally, we will also work on developing your vocabulary. So let's do a quick recap of what we have done this far. So here we have in the masculine we had cow, cow, so cow, cow, and then for the tat rupams we had tau, tau, and for the masculine it was janakau, janakau. Good news, it's all the same. But we had also brought in the feminine along with the janakau, because we had for the kim it was k, k in the feminine, etat became ete, ete, and sahodari instead of becoming sahodarye and sahodarye became sahodaryau and sahodaryau, just like janakau, janakau. That's why they were clubbed together. What happens to the other two cases of word endings? So we have the feminine a, amba, and let's do it with the kim and tat and see what happens. So k, k, etat was etat, ete, ete, or te, te, amba became ambe, ambe, and we had the neuter word which was mitra became mitre, mitre. What happens to them in the kim and the etat for the neuter became ke, ke, and etat or ete, ete. Astu. So we see that whether it's a ending feminine word or it is a ending neuter word, they take on the same forms. That really simplifies life if you retain the logic of their connection. Let's go on to the verb conjugation grid, and we'll do a practice of the vartamana or the present tense. So we saw the different forms here. We had sahasa tat became tau te te and te taha tani. And bhavan and bhavati, which acts like the the third person or the prathama purusha, became bhavantau, bhavatyau, and bhavantaha and bhavatyaha. What happens to the madhyama purusha or the second person? It is tvam, yuvam, yuyam. Finally, uttama purusha or the first person, aham, avam, and vayam. Let's do an application of that in a verb grid. So in the present tense we had vadati, vadataha. So vadati, vadataha, vadanti. Tvam vadasi, vadathaha, vadatha. Vadami, vadavaha, and vadamaha. Uttamam. So you remember the endings which were ti, taha, anti, si, thaha, tha, ami, avaha, amaha. Uttamam. So I'd like to introduce you to the bhavishya kala or the future. We've already been looking at it in the previous course of the introduction to basic spoken Sanskrit, and so you're already familiar with it, but now with the entire grid completed, it will be easier for us to apply our understanding of the future there. So what do we see? So the really good news here is that for the parasmaipadi words, what do we see here? That the same verb endings that we have for the vartamana are reflected in the future as well. The only difference is that in the future we call the future tense the bhavishya kala. So the vishya of the bhavishya, the vishya, ishya, it really is the ishya. Generally, in some forms it does get a little modified, but ishya is the indicator of the future tense. So what do we have here? Vadati becomes vadishyati, then vadataha, vadishyataha, vadanti, vadishyanti, vadasi, vadishyasi, vadathaha, vadishyathaha, vadatha, vadishyatha. Uttamam. Vadami, vadishyami, vadavaha, vadishyavaha, vadamaha, vadishyamaha. So now you can play around with the different forms of verbs that we had been seeing. So this we had seen was verbs from the Bhuadi Gana, or the first group of verbs of the 10 that we have spoken of last time. So that's the first group of verbs. I will just write that for you again. Alright, so here we have the first group, and what happens now? What is very interesting is that the form bhavishyati is the future not only of bhavati, but it is also the future. So the root for the bhavishyati, I'll do it here, is bhu. So that is one root, and it is also the root for as. Asti in the future becomes bhavishyati. So we have bhavishyati, bhavishyataha, bhavishyanti, bhavishyasi, bhavishyathaha, bhavishyatha, bhavishyami, bhavishyavaha, bhavishyamaha. Okay, so this was not correct action there, but bhavishyasi you will be. So bhavishyasi, bhavishyathaha, bhavishyatha, bhavishyami, bhavishyavaha, bhavishyamaha. The hands, if you can coordinate the hands with the learning of the language, it really helps to remember. Now I'd like you to make a sentence here. If you say we will become Sanskrit, knowers of Sanskrit, how would you say that? We will become knowers, we plural, will become knowers of Sanskrit. Yeah? How would that be? We will be Vayam. Knowers of Sanskrit is, so Sanskrita, knower of Jnaha, plural, Jnaha, and we will become Bhavishyamaha. So we will become knowers of Sanskrit. Vayam Sanskrita Jnaha Bhavishyamaha. You already are knowers of Sanskrit, but this was just to give a practice for becoming even more knowledgeable about this language once you finish the course. Okay, so what I'd like to also point out here is that the root bhu becomes bhavishyati, pat, pathishyati, simple, gam, gamishyati, stha becomes sthasyati. You remember in the present tense, stha became tishtati, but in the future it becomes sthasyati. So the syati is important for you to note, because syati is a modification of the shya due to the a that is there before it, and you recognize the root in this form. So sthasyati, let's do a quick conjugation of that. Sthasyati, sthasyataha, sthasyanti, sthasyasi, sthasyathaha, sthasyatha, sthasyami, sthasyavaha, sthasyamaha. Uttamam. Another form which is drish, another root, drish, to see, becomes drakshyati. So where do you find the root again? In the present tense it was pashyati, in the future drakshyati. So it undergoes certain modifications and you don't exactly hear the ishya, but you find the shyati modified there. Okay, so pashyati, Drakshyati, I will see, or he will see, not I will see, but he will see. So let's see if you can conjugate that. Drakshati, drakshataha, drakshanti, drakshasi, drakshataha, drakshatha, drakshyami, drakshyavaha, drakshyamaha. Uttamam. Now let me see if you can put that together in a word, in a sentence. So I'd like you to say that we will, not we, I'll change that. So I'd like you to say, you two formal will see the movie tomorrow. You two formal will see the movie or the film tomorrow. So how would you go about it? You formal first. So you should have a question for me there. Exactly. Is it masculine or is it feminine? So let's say it is the feminine here. So what is the feminine in the singular for you formal? Bhavati. You two. Bhavatyau. What will be the associated verb? Drakshyataha. Because it acts like the third person. And then Drakshataha. And what will you see? The movie or the film Chalanachitram. When? Tomorrow. Let's put that sentence together. Bhavatyau Chalanachitram Drakshataha Shwaha. But change the order. Shwaha Bhavatyau Chalanachitram Drakshyataha. Let's put the verb in the beginning. Drakshataha Bhavatyau Chalanachitram Shwaha. Permutations and combinations, all of them would work, but in a sense that the natural order would tend to be more of the Shwaha. So you put the time early. So Shwaha, Bhavatyau, the subject, Chalanachitram, Drakshataha. It's nice in this context especially to put the subject in, though I said that sometimes you don't need to put it in, because you're talking of the you formal. Contextually one can understand it, but it is not a standalone, because those two and you two formal have the same verb form. So it's a good idea to put that in there. Let's move on to the next slide, and this will be a practice of the second and eighth cases for the dual. So again a colorful slide for you here, and what do we see here? That in the first column we have now incorporated the dual case for the third person as well. So what do we have here? Sahasa tat bhavan bhavati. In the dual, tau te te bhavantau bhavatyau. Plural, te taha tani bhavantaha bhavatyaha. For the tvam, tvam yuvam yuyam. And then for the first person, aham avam vayam. And in the second column, you have the second case for the masculine singular. So tam or etam. Then you have it for the dual case, which is tau or etau. And then you have it for the plural, which is tan or etan. So now the person who's doing the action can be singular, dual or plural. The object that is receiving the action, or that is the recipient of the action, object of the action, can also be in the singular, dual or plural. And then we have the nouns, and the nouns also can take on the singular, dual or plural. So you have gayakam pashyami, or you can see two of them, gayakau pashyami, or you can see many of them, gayakan pashyami. And finally we have the action, the verb itself, and the verbs are put in accordance with the subjects, with the color scheme there. Okay, so I hope that you are able to follow that. Now let's see what happens here. So let's start. We have saha. We'll stick to the saha to keep life very simple. Okay, so saha tam gayakam pashyati. Now he sees the two of the singers. So saha tau gayakau pashyati. He sees many of them. Saha tan gayakan pashyati. Astu. So what we will do is, just for the sake of our practice and the time that is in our hands, I will just take you through the singular and the dual cases. So we have saha tam kridakam pashyati, saha tau kridakau pashyati. And then we have it for the rakshakaha, saha tam rakshakam pashyati becomes saha tau rakshakau pashyati. Nayakaha, saha tam nayakam pashyati, saha tau nayakau pashyati. Uttamam. And then you can of course add the plural also and do a practice there. But next one that I would like to bring to our attention is the destination. So the object is also used for the destination. So we have patralayam, patralaya, post office, patralayam gachati, dual, patralayau gachati, plural, patralayan gachati. Okay, granthalayah, dual, granthalayau granthalayau gachati. Karyalayah, so karyalayam gachati, in dual, karyalayau gachati. Now let's see another one. What happens to the ikara there? Alright, so we have tam, saha, we'll stick to the saha, saha tam nartakim pashyati, he sees that dancer, two of them, saha te nartakyau pashyati, and then he sees those dancers, saha taha nartakihi pashyati. Alright, again just like the previous one, we will stick to the singular and the dual because that's the area of our practice now. So saha tam gunavatim pashyati, dual, saha te gunavatyau pashyati. Uttamam. Gunavati, guna means quality, vati means one who possesses the qualities, who is a very virtuous woman. Next, buddhi mati, intelligent. So saha tam buddhimatim pashyati, dual, saha te buddhimatyau pashyati. And the next one, chitrakari, artist. So saha tam chitrakarim pashyati, dual, saha te chitrakaryau pashyati. Uttamam. Now let's see what happens to the destination. Nadim gachati becomes nadyau gachati, ke nadyau gachati, te nadyau gachati. Uttamam. So because we are already familiar with this form, the application has differed here because we have moved on to the second case in this context. And so now let me make a sentence for you. We'll do two sentences, one with the masculine and one with the neuter, and I'd like to see if you're able to find the answer. So let's say that I see these two actors. I see these two actors. Yeah, got that? Let's see. So I, very easy, aham, see, what will be the corresponding? Pashyami. These two would be etau, actors, nayaka, nayakau. Alright, so aham etau nayakau pashyami. I am very tempted to, let's go on to the next one, which is the feminine one, and let's see if you can make a sentence there. So the two of them feminine, the two of them feminine see the two intelligent ladies. The two of them feminine see those two intelligent ladies. Alright, let's see if you've got it. The two of them feminine would be te, see would be pashyatah. Those two, te. Buddhimati, intelligent women. Buddhimati becomes buddhimatyau. So, te buddhimatyau pashyatah. Now, why did I give you that sentence? Yes, because we have te, but they don't mean the same thing. The two te's are not the same thing. So, the first two are the subjects, those two ladies specifically. Te buddhimatyau, the two objects here, the two ladies that you are seeing. Pashyatah. So, it's the same form, but the meaning is not the same. So, you have to keep your mind alert in order to catch that difference. Let's move on to the next one with the feminine a and the neuter words, and let's see what happens. So, sticking to the same format there, let's see what forms this takes on. So, we have saha tam gayikam pashyati will become saha te gayike pashyati. So, saha te gayike pashyati. And then plural, saha taha gayikaha pashyati. Like we did in the previous case, we will only stick to the singular and the dual cases. So, saha tam kridikam pashyati, saha te kridike pashyati. Uttamam. Saha tam rakshikam pashyati, saha te rakshike pashyati. Uttamam. Saha tam vicharikam pashyati, saha te vicharike pashyati. Uttamam. And the same for the destination. So, I have just taken the simple word shala. You can say bhojana shala, paka shala, patha shala. So, the school, and you know the words, you're already familiar with them. So, I just stuck to shala or the place. It means a place or an institute. So, saha tam shalam gachati or pashyati, saha te shale gachati. In this case, it is gachati because it is the destination there. Okay, so saha te shale gachati, and I'd just like to mention that it was the same here in terms of the destination. Patralayam gachati becomes patralayau gachati. Similarly, nadim gachati became nadyau gachati, and that's why you have that color code over there. Coming back here, we have shalam gachati, shale gachati. I'll give you some practice. Vatikam gachati, vatike gachati. Bhojana shalam gachati, bhojana shale gachati. Uttamam. Now let's move on to the neuter and see what happens. So, saha tat mitram pashyati becomes saha te mitre pashyati. Plural, saha tani mitrani pashyati. Uttamam. We'll stick to the dual, singular and dual. Saha tat vahanam pashyati, saha te vahane pashyati. Uttamam. Next, saha tat vimanam pashyati, te vimane pashyati. Uttamam. Saha tat nakshatram pashyati, te nakshatre pashyati. Uttamam. Saha tat griham pashyati, saha te grihe pashyati. Uttamam. Now let's play the game here. So, I will give you any sentence to translate, and let's see if you can put that together for me. So, you two informal see these two thinkers. You two informal see these two thinkers. Alright, got it? So, first thing, you two in the informal is yuvam. See would become pashyatah. These two would be ete. So, the whole of that ete. Thinkers, vicharika becomes vicharike. Uttamam. So, vicharike. So, let's make the whole sentence. Yuvam ete vicharike pashyatah. Uttamam. Now let's do one for the feminine one, one for the neuter one. So, we all go to those houses, those two houses. So, we all go to those two houses. Uttamam. So, we all will be vayam and the corresponding verb, sorry, not this, but gacchamaha. Gacchamaha. And so we all go, gacchamaha, where? To those two houses. Those two will be te, and houses will be those two houses. So grihe. Uttamam. Got it? So we have that, and we know it's the same cases. Alright. So let's apply it in a game like we've done in the previous lesson, and here there is no color code for the pronouns and the nouns, for the pronouns and the verb conjugations. So let's see what happens. So here we have, let's number it first. We have ekam, dve, trini, chatvari, pancha, shat, sapta, ashta and nava. And let's see the corresponding verb forms here. So, avam will go with pashyavaha. Tvam will go with drakshanti, drakshasi with drakshasi. Uttamam. Tau will go with any of that, and yes, pashyataha. So, I've also brought in the future here for us to practice. Next, vayam will go with drakshanti, drakshataha, drakshati, pashyavaha and with pashyamaha. Yuvam will go with yuvam, pashya or drakshataha. There. Then saha will go with drakshati. Yuyam will go with pashyatha. Te will go with drakshanti, and finally aham drakshyami. Okay, now that we have that, let's fill in the different forms here. So, avam prastavam drakshyavaha becomes avam prastavau drakshya or pashyavaha. So, it's pashyavaha in the present tense. Next, tvam mahotsavam. What did we have here? Drakshasi, and that will become tvam mahotsavau drakshasi. Tau sakhim pashyataha becomes tau sakhyau pashyataha. Vayam kumarim pashyamaha. Vayam kumaryau pashyamaha. Uttamam. Yuvam patrikam. So there should be a patrikam there. Patrikam in the feminine for the second. So yuvam patrikam becomes 5. Drakshataha. Yuvam patrike drakshataha. Next, saha pujam. Where are we? Saha pujam drakshati. Saha puje drakshati. Yuyam nrityam pashyatha. Yuyam nritye pashyatha. Uttamam. Te nayanam pashyanti or drakshyanti. They will see the eye. Te nayane drakshyanti. Alright. And what I would like you to do, the last one is aham. And I'd like you to make a sentence with aham. I will see those two festivals, or I will see those two festivals will be aham mahotsavau drakshyami. Uttamam. So moving on to the Sambodhanam or the vocative case, we see that we have the first and the last are the same. The first case and the last cases are the same there. So we have Hey Gayaka Ekam Geetam Gayatu Kripaya. Please sing one song. Now if the two of them, Hey Gayakau Ekam Geetam Gayatam, and that's something that we're going to look at in greater detail. So Gayatu becomes Gayatam. It's an imperative or request there. Next, Hey Kridaka Spardhayam Vijayaha Bhavatu. So in the competition, may you be successful. If the two of them, Hey Kridakau Spardhayam Yuvayoho. So you have put it in brackets because it is only relevant when there are two players that are taking part in the competition. Yuvayoho Vijayaha Bhavatu. Uttamam. Moving on, Sahodari becomes Hey Sahodari Tatra Ma Gachatu. So don't go there. Two of them, Hey Sahodaryau Tatra Ma Gachatam. Uttamam. Janani becomes Hey Janani Tatra Ma Gachatu, and if there are two of them, Hey Jananyau Tatra Ma Gachatam. Uttamam. Moving on, with the word Kridika becomes Kridike. So Hey Kridike in the singular, Spardhayam Vijayaha Bhavatu. So a lady sportswoman. So you will tell her, may you be successful in the competition. So Hey Kridike Spardhayam Vijayaha Bhavatu. If there are two of them, Hey Kridike, it's the same thing. Spardhayam Yuvayoho Vijayaha Bhavatu. So Kridike, Hey Kridike in the singular and Hey Kridike in the dual. Spardhayam Yuvayoho Vijayaha Bhavatu. When it's singular, you do not say the Yuvayoho there. So you have to be careful of that as well. Next, Rakshika. So Hey Rakshike Tatra Ma Gachatu. So don't go there. Two of them, Hey Rakshike Tatra Ma Gachatam. So the first one was Hey Rakshike Tatra Ma Gachatu, and the second Hey Rakshike Tatra Ma Gachatam. Just by the tu and the tam, you know that it is the singular or the dual case there. Moving on. Hey Mitra for the neuter words. Hey Mitra Mama Vaktavyam. What I have to say. Sarvam Shrunotu. Listen to it carefully. Two of them. Hey Mitre Mama Vaktavyam Sarvam Shrunutam. Uttamam. The next one, Hey Kalatra Mama Vaktavyam Sarvam Shrunotu. Two of them, Hey Kalatre Mama Vaktavyam Sarvam Shrunutam. Okay, so Shrunotu, Shrunutam. Here you can see that you can mix and match with the black ones, but the violet would tend to stick together in terms of the meaning there. So be conscious and apply the language according to the context. So I just wanted to introduce you very quickly to the lot or the ajna or the imperative here. So we have vadatu, vadatam, vadantu. So the e of the present gets replaced by the u. Vada, vadatam, vadata, vadani, vadava, vadam. So this is like let us or do. It's an order or a request. And what do we see here? One way of remembering is that the e for the third person singular and plural is replaced by the u. The middle line gets a tam tam ta. That's how I had learnt it. Tam tam ta. What else? The vadasi drops the c. It just becomes vada. For vadami, it becomes vadani. Vadava dropping the visarga and vadamma dropping the visarga again. So here we have the bhuadigana verbs again that we've already been a little familiar with, and I'd like you to do this with pathatu. Say that. Pathatu, pathatam, pathantu, patha, pathatam, pathata, pathani, pathava and pathama. Uttamam. Let's move on. Do a quick recap of what we have done this far. So we see that kau, etau, janakau, but in the feminine it is ke, ete, sahodaryau, but ambe and mitre. So all of them, so whether it is Esha or Etat, both of them will get Ete, and the forms are all with the Ete except for the E ending. So I've tried to give you a color code there to show you what is similar and what is different. And what happens with the second case, so it is identical. So kau, tau, janakau, ke, te, sahodaryau, ke, te, ambe, and in the mitram, ke, te, and mitre, uttamam. And to close, we have the vocative, which is he janakau. For sahodari, he sahodaryau. For the amba, it is he ambe. And you see that it is the same for the single as well, for ambe. So he ambe, he ambe. And here you have he mitra becomes he mitre. Alright, so again a chart for you to study there. Let's move on to an application in the shloka and see if you can identify what we've done here. So, sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhau jaya jayau tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi. So this is from the Gita, the second chapter again, where Krishna is really starting his counseling, and this is the 38th verse. So he says, Sukha dukkhe. So in the world of dualities, one of the reasons why the dual is oft used is because the world is made of dualities. And in all those cases of dualities, you can use the dual case. So sukha and dukkha, happiness and sorrow, grief and happiness. Sukha dukkhe. So the two of them. Same, making them equal. Kritva, by making them. What else do you need to equalize? Labha labhau. So loss and gain. Labha alabha. So labha is gain, alabha is loss. So labha labhau. It's in the dual case for the masculine. Jaya ajaya. So jaya is victory and ajaya is defeat. Jaya jayau, dual again. Same kritva, by making all this equal or being equal in all these states of duality. What should you do? Tataha, from there. So tato we have already seen before, becomes tataha. Sorry, I'll do it apart a little bit. Tataha, yuddhaya, for battle. Yujyasva, become ready to fight. Naivam, naivam is a combination of na plus evam. Not thus. Papam avapsyasi, you will not incur any sin. And then turn to battle. So make grief and happiness, loss and gain, victory and defeat equal to thy soul, and then turn to battle. So thou shalt not incur sin, says Krishna. And with these words, I'd like to chant it for you and invite you to repeat after me. Sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labhau jaya jayau tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsyasi. Uttamam. A lot more than just the learning of the dual case in that, and a secret to being able to lead a very conscious, meaningful, and a life where one can overcome a lot of the conflicts that one faces in different circumstances. So with this, another quotation from Srimati Sushma Swaraj, the late Srimati Sushma Swaraj, where she says that the Gita and the power of its teachings. She says, eating chocolates or popping pills won't reduce depression. Instead, one must read the Gita. This will help relieve the stress and depression in life. It will help in dealing with challenges in life. So many things to take from that. And with these words, just a quick note of the references. Swastyastu, swastyastu. Practice the dual case and overcome the dualities in life as well. Dhanyavadaha.